Hello, hello, and welcome to The Binge. I'm your host, and I'll be your guide through this wild ride of a podcast where we binge on everything from pop culture to quantum physics. 1 minute, we're analyzing the deeper meaning behind the latest viral meme, and the next, we're debating the best way to cook a grilled cheese sandwich. It's a beautiful mess, but that's what makes it fun. So grab a snack, get comfy, and get ready to binge with me on all the random topics your brain can handle. Who knows? You might even learn something new. Or you might just be really confused by the end of it. Either way, it's going to be a good time. Buckle up, folks, because you're listening to The Binge. This podcast is sponsored by Abbey Streets. Let's go.
It's the Binge Podcast where everything's at last. It's the Binge Podcast. Come join us fast.
The Incredible Bulk. The Ridiculous Rise of Arnold Schwarzenegger. From the frozen tundra of rural Austria to the bright lights of Hollywood, the story of Arnold Schwarzenegger is a tale so bizarre and outrageous that it simply couldn't be fiction. This is a man who quite literally fought his way out of a small European village by hitting the weights and chugging protein shakes until his muscles had muscles. Born in 1947 to a family of modest means, young Arnold quickly realized that his tiny hometown of Thal wasn't nearly big enough to contain his massive ambitions. And let's face it, probably his massive arms too. So he did what any rational adolescent would do. He started furiously pumping iron and entering bodybuilding competitions with the dream of becoming the most famous muscle man since Popeye. And boy, did he ever succeed. With his cartoonish proportions and an unquenchable thirst for self-promotion, Schwarzenegger bulldozed his way to the top of the bodybuilding world, winning Mr. Universe at the ripe old age of 20 and Mr. Olympia a staggering 7 times. It was around this time that he also unveiled his trademark line, shouting, "Get to the chopper!" The most mundane of circumstances. Need a spotter at the gym? Get to the chopper! Forget to pick up the eggs at the grocery store? Get to the chopper! But being the biggest badass in the iron-pumping game wasn't enough for the inhumanely ambitious Austrian oak. Nope, he had his sights set on that most prestigious of professions, movie stardom. So in the ballsiest move since David slayed Goliath, Schwarzenegger packed his bags and his oiled-up pecs and headed to Hollywood in the 1970s with just a thick accent and "I'll be back" catchphrase to his name. Incredibly, it worked. Thanks to his larger-than-life charisma and an acting range that spanned from A to B, Arnold Schwarzenegger landed his breakout role as the Terminator and quickly became the biggest action star since, well, ever. He grunted and flexed his way through an endless stream of blockbusters, playing everything from an android assassin to a secret agent with a penchant for making ice puns. Before long, the man who once dreamed of being the world's most famous bodybuilder was one of the most recognizable celebrities on the planet. But why stop there? In a plot twist straight out of one of his films, Schwarzenegger decided to take a break from Hollywood and become the governor of California, because apparently running the world's 5th largest economy seemed like a good use of his skill set. Amazingly, Californians went for it, electing the governator in a historical recall election that was just a dress rehearsal for the shit show of American politics to come. So let this be a lesson to the dreamers and strivers out there. If a muscle-bound Austrian immigrant with a funny accent and a talking baby co-star can rise to become a global superstar and leader of millions, maybe anything is possible. Or maybe Schwarzenegger is just a Teflon-coated freak of nature who simply willed himself to greatness through sheer force of bicep peaks and catchphrases. Either way, what a story. The Accidental Revolutionary: How the Internet Came to Be. Leave it to the human species to stumble into one of the most profound and transformative inventions in history entirely by accident. That's precisely what happened with the internet, the vast celestial web of knowledge, communication, and cat videos that has become as indispensable to modern existence as opposable thumbs. The whole preposterous affair began, as so many things do, with the United States government and its penchant for developing novel ways to reduce cities to smoldering rubble. It was the height of the Cold War in the 1960s, and the military masterminds at the Defense Department were fretting over how they might maintain lines of communication in the event of a nuclear attack. What they needed was a computer network that could withstand being bombed into oblivion. So a few researchers, undoubtedly pondering these weighty matters between games of collegiate footbag, devised a novel way of making computers talk to one another without a central organizing hub. If part of the network was vaporized in atomic fire, the remaining bits could still trade data merrily. It was rudimentary stuff, but it worked after a fashion. Of course, leave it to the researchers to get bored before long. Having achieved their goal of decentralized cyber chatter, they began tinkering and tinkering until their humble creation grew into a transcontinental data stream, gulping up more and more computing power like a boa constrictor devouring a succession of increasingly ill-advised meals. Before long, universities and research labs across the country were patching into this ever-expanding network, swapping data and emails, and no doubt the occasional off-color limerick. In an astonishing lack of foresight, the government allowed it all to happen, seemingly oblivious that their little military software project was rapidly becoming a freewheeling digital utopia. It's all too absurd, really. The greatest breakthrough in information technology since the Gutenberg press was born from a few researchers idly indulging their obsessions while ostensibly devising systems to survive Armageddon. One can't help but imagine future civilizations uncovering the Internet's origins and marveling at the propensity of human beings to create revolutionary marvels almost by dumb luck. But there you have it. For all our vaulting ambitions of grandeur and progress, we remain a diligently accidental species, our greatest achievements so often the unanticipated byproducts of more mundane pursuits. The Internet is simply the latest and most visible reminder that when it comes to human endeavors, you never know what's going to stick. Quantum leapfrogs, a delightfully dizzying look at the freak show of subatomic computing. Okay, buckle up, because we're about to take a wild trip down the rabbit hole of quantum computing. If words like qubits, superposition, and wave function collapse don't already have you dry heaving into the nearest garbage can, just wait until you get a load of this freaky physics fornicating. See, here's the deal. Those boring old classical computers that power everything from your laptop to the porn sites you definitely don't visit, yeah, they're about as cutting edge as Morse code at this point. Those things are basically just fancy abacuses churning out ones and zeros like your grandpa working an assembly line back in the 50s. Efficient? Sure. Powerful? I guess. For performing mundane tasks like number crunching and pissing video game contests, but deeply, unsatisfyingly limited in scope. Enter quantum computing, the LSD-laced spirit journey of the digital world. Instead of the rigid, binary thinking of classical computers, these far-out machines operate according to the bizarre, paradoxical rules of quantum mechanics. You know, the same utterly mind-bending principles that allow for spooky phenomena like particles being in two places at once, or cats being simultaneously alive and dead in idyllic pastoral boxes. At the heart of a quantum computer lies the qubit, or quantum bit, the basic unit of data that's definitely not just a bit after hitting the bong a few too many times. You see, while a normal Neanderthal bit can only exist in a state of 1 or 0, a qubit gets to transcend such petty binary constraints. Thanks to the wacky quantum effects of superposition and entanglement, these subatomic data mavens can exist in a sort of limbo state, a weird quantum purgatory where they are both 1 and 0 at the same time. It's like the yin-yang cookie of the computing world, a single, unified state of divine oneness and total contradiction. But here's where things take a turn for the utterly psychedelic. In order to actually utilize and read the data held in these quantum limbo states, you have to engage in a process called, and I shit you not, wave function collapse. Basically, by taking a measurement of the system, the quantum effects get a total buzzkill, forcing the qubit to make like Schrodinger's cat and decide whether it's actually alive or dead once and for all. It's at this point that any sane person would throw up their hands and say, fuck it. I'm just going to start an alpaca farm and live off the grid like a normal human being. But not so for the wild-eyed quantum crusaders dedicated to dragging computers into this bizarre subatomic rabbit hole. For them, the prospect of harnessing the sublime power of quantum mechanics is an obsession bordering on the unhealthily erotic. And what sort of world-altering potential could these quantum leapfrogs actually unleash, you ask? Well, besides giving every computer in existence a totally untreatable case of split personality disorder, quantum computers could eventually lead to breakthroughs in everything from cryptography and cybersecurity to material science and nuclear physics. With the ability to perform multiple calculations at once as well as solve problems too complex for classical systems, these quantum big brains could accelerate the pace of scientific progress to warp 9 levels. Of course, they could also be the harbingers of a new age of digital apocalypse, churning out encryption codes so advanced that all privacy and secrecy becomes meaningless. Or maybe the constant wave function collapses will open up interdimensional wormholes, unleashing a Lovecraftian torrent of tentacled, cyclopean horrors upon our plane of existence. Hey, when you're dealing with reality-bending quantum mechanics, all bets are off. But let's not get too bogged down in the potential existential dread, folks. Instead, let's take a moment to appreciate the sheer, unabashed whimsy and absurdity of quantum computing. This is some full-tilt, balls-to-the-walls, scientifically endorsed delirium we're talking about here. We've got subatomic particles pulling a full-blown, why not both, when asked if they're in this state or that state. We've got fundamental units of data that only achieve definition and certainty once they've been stared at really, really hard. It's utter chaos, a total breakdown of all rational Newtonian thought, and the scientists love it. Seriously, you've got to admire the sheer, unabashed horniness these quantum jockeys have for dragging the entire field of computing into a realm of pure, uninhibited, subatomic debauchery. They're like a bunch of freaks at an underground rave, chasing that next interdimensional data high without a care in the world for conventional physics or binary thinking. Just give them some subatomic particles to abuse, a few $1 billion in funding, and the promise of one day simulating the entire known universe on a machine the size of a shoebox, and they'll follow you right down into the wormhole without a second thought. So get ready to pucker up and smooch reality square on the lips, because quantum computing is here to turn everything we thought we knew about data processing into one big sloppy Schrodinger's French kiss. Will this revolutionary new paradigm lead to world-changing scientific breakthroughs or merely reduce all our digital lives to a hot mess of contradictory ones and zeros? Who the fuck knows? And that's half the fun. All I can say is, if you thought the internet was already a batshit cavalcade of misinformation and deranged conspiracy theories, just wait until the quantum computing age kicks into high gear. Things are going to get triple dog freaky around here.
The binge, it's time to